Welcome to episode 1 of How to Play That Game as a Tabletop RPG. Now you might question, why would you do this if you already have the game you can play already? But what if you want to play more of the game in a different way, or explore the world a little more? Or what if you yourself want to make a game similar to that of the game you like and want others to play it? Well, you could spend 10 years learning how to program, build a team, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and have you and others unable to see their family for 1 to 2 how many years? Well, then I got the better solution. For our first game, we are going to see how we would play The Last of Us 2 as a tabletop RPG. So this is how we're going to do this. We're going to watch a combat encounter from the game, and we will see how we can replicate it in a tabletop format. So, for this first combat scenario, we have to decide who goes first. We are going to go based off a little bit off the D&D system. The first is the decision of who to go first. Now, for this system that I made, there isn't any initiative rolls. Actually, there's not many dice rolls required, or at all, as Last of Us 2 seems to not have scenarios in which that is much the case. I mean, there are some can be, but I don't think it's required, as more things just happen because there's things connect, and if you do something, it happens, you know? So, as well as there isn't any attack rolls per se, and we will get to that later. But as for now, of who goes first, again, there aren't initiative rolls, so it looks like here the enemies go first. Each player and enemy has one action, and some things spend one action. Okay, so that was their turn. They spent. That was their turn. Now, it is Ellie and Dina's turn, and going based off of D&D and the grid system, that's how, using the 5x5 squares, 5 feet, we'll use that same as it is in D&D. Ellie moved, it has 30 feet of movement. So do all the enemies and players. Your choice to decrease that or increase that. And when crouched, they use half their movement. They're only able to use half their movement. Their movement is halved if crouching, which means usually stealthing. Now, what Ellie here is doing is being in stealth, or being hidden. Stealth doesn't require any rules to make. Instead, stealth is almost solely reliant on line of sight. If an enemy cannot see a player directly, then they don't know they're there, whether a roll or not, which in this case there isn't for the system. Each enemy needs to be identified where they are facing on a map, or Battle of the Mind if you want to make that difficult for yourself, and have a marker that's an arrow showing where they're facing to maybe simplify things, or you don't have proper models. And again, usually they tend to be crouching, so half their movement. If the player tries to get past an enemy while being in line of sight, or getting close while in some grass, you make a focus check. Now, we'll get to focus in a little bit. Actually, right now. Now, what Dina did there was try to attack, using action to attack. And in order to attack an enemy, you have to use focus. Now, what focus is a system that is inspired by another tabletop RPG. Instead of rolling to see if you hit, it instead uses something called focus. Focus determines if you are successfully attacked, hit, or if you make a successful attack. If an attack uses more focus than the one being attacked, it's successful and they deal damage. If the attack uses more focus than the attacker does not deal damage and it acts as a miss. If both use an equal amount of focus, then the attack gets grazed. Grazed meaning you get one hit worth of damage. Attacking uses an action, but you can make multiple attacks on your turn if you have remaining focus. If you're in cover, that means you cannot be shot at. It is only if a creature pokes out their head or body can someone be shot at, attacked. And whenever you use focus, both the GM and the player have to announce it at the same time, how much focus both will be using, as how much enemies and players' focus is supposed to be a mystery and a guess. it gives that sense of randomness. But now, this may not make sense, so let me give an example between Dina and this enemy here. What Dina did was actually ready an action as the enemy was in cover, and any type of cover is full cover. And so if you are in full cover, you cannot be shot at. The only way to be shot at if you are in cover is if you take a readying action. Now, if you're familiar with D&D, readying an action means you wait until on an enemy's turn to perform an action, or if something happens not on the player's turn, then the player can do this, even if it's not on their turn. So, Dina used a ready action to attack if that enemy there poked their head out. Now, let's give an example of focus, using focus to attack. So, quick example of how focus works. Usually players have typically 10 focus. An enemy may have between 4 or 8 focus, more, maybe less. If you're attacking enemy 1, let's say, and you spend 8 focus, enemy 1 spends 4 focus. If it is your turn and you're attacking enemy 1, and you spend 8 focus, enemy 1 spends 4 focus in return, which means that your attack lands, dealing the amount of hit damage. But enemy 2 spends 2 focus, meaning you are also attacked successfully, but are only grazed. Grazed meaning you only get 1 hit worth of damage. You had a total of 10 focus, you spent 8 to attack, you dealt your damage, then were attacked and only had 2 focus left, so you were grazed. You have leftover focus when attacking, you can attack again with any leftover focus, but if you don't have any remaining focus left, enemy that attacks is successful. Now rules for the headshot. You can perform a headshot under the following conditions, either while being in stealth, or if you use your whole turn to aim and the enemy does not move out of line of sight. Now, that means using all your focus, using 10 focus. If you perform a headshot, an enemy will instantly die unless they are special infected, like a clicker. If you headshot a clicker, it stuns them. 2 headshots will kill a clicker. Whenever you have focus left over, you can do other attacks. You could do another attack, and since still... Now, as for health, how this works is, instead of calling it health, it's called hits. You have a number of hits, and if brought down to 0, there aren't any death saving throws or anything, you just die. Which brings into the case, now I highly suggest that if a player does die, that you do what the game does. You go back to a save point. Now, I know that isn't a traditional thing for tabletop RPGs, but if you want to go for the higher difficulties for your game, you might want to do that. Have more grounded level. And so, for how much hits you have, that's dependent on you. I originally was going to do 7, but realized that might be a little too difficult. And each weapon does a different amount of hits. There isn't a die roll, it's just a guarantee of hits. So maybe a pistol does 2 and a rifle does 3 or 4. Again, you could change that. Now for melee attacks. Normal hand-to-hand combat or knives, like Ellie's, does 1 hit, usually. You could maybe make it more, depending. Especially with the melee weapons you could pick up. But how it works for combat in a melee attack is that you do the same thing with focus. But another thing you can do is you can incorporate the dodge. Now, you can use dodge as an action. It doesn't spend focus. How the dodge works: if you use an action to dodge, and if an enemy makes a melee attack against you and misses, make a successful automatic melee hit as a reaction. It means you will hit that melee attack. Yeah. Now as for the stealth attack. If you get behind an enemy without being detected, you can grapple them and hold a weapon against them. They will not call out with the threat of the weapon. You have the option to kill the enemy instantly or to drag them to another location slowly, meaning half your movement. The enemy also acts as cover if being shot at. Full cover. Unless, of course, they're attacking beside you, and yeah. You also have the option to shoot at enemies while grappling an enemy. If you do this, your enemy can attempt to escape the grapple using the grapple rules. Except they don't take hits. We'll describe the grapple rules in a moment. If enemies are shooting back while you have an enemy, whenever they hit the one you have grappled, not you. Okay, back to stealth. If a player tries to get past an enemy while being in line of sight, you can make a focus check. If the enemy uses more focus, they spot you. Depending on the focus you want to use, whoever has the greater focus, if Ellie's hiding, stealthing, and uses more focus than the enemy, then they don't spot her. But if one or more uses more focus than you do, then you're spotted. But if you have any remaining focus left, you can make an attack in response to being spotted. Also, for searching for supplies, it doesn't use any roll whatsoever. You could describe in great detail them searching cabinets and drawers and that sort of thing, and finding items. And it's up to you as the GM, to tell them what they find within the room if they attempt to search. Though be aware if in combat and they're attempting to search and a crafting or bullets or whatever other supplies is not out in the open. If it's out in the open, you are free to pick an item up without using an action. But if it's like in a drawer, you're searching in a drawer and stuff, that does use an action. Also, while stealthing, being in stealth, you could decide to just make a automatic melee hit, which will instantly kill an enemy, but you will be immediately spotted. You can stun enemies. If an enemy is stunned, that means if you make a melee attack, you automatically kill them. Unless, of course, they are special infected. Using glass, bricks, or shooting at the knee or legs. Now, you could optionally shoot someone in the leg or the knee to stun them. In order to do this, it's like a normal attack roll. It's like a normal attack action. But instead, you can decide to use an action to shoot somebody in the knee or leg to stun them. Now, once you do this, you cannot use any remaining focus to shoot again. When it hits their turn, they'll remain stunned, and they have to wait at their next turn in order to get out of the stun. Also, throwing smoke bombs, molotovs, bottles, or bricks does not use an action. It is a free action, which in D&D, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, should be the same for picking up items. Picking up items, if they're just around nearby you, you could just pick them out, and that's a free action, to pick one or two items off the ground. You only have one free action. Free actions do not include, getting weapons from... Actually, you know what? Grabbing a weapon that is not in your, strapped on you or holstered and grabbing from your backpack uses a action. But as for throwing bottles or bricks or throwing any object whatsoever, it uses a free action. And so, within the same turn, you can throw a bottle and make a melee attack. Because any enemy that is stunned, if melee attacked, will automatically be killed in one hit. How Molotovs work: if directly hit by one, it means instant death for at least most enemies. As an action, you can throw a Molotov cocktail at a point up to 60 feet away. Each creature within 20 feet of an exploding Molotov takes 4 hits and begins burning for 1d4 rounds, taking 4 hits each round. If you don't have dice, as mostly it has been pretty non-diceless, you can just decide a number between 1 and 4 instead. Also, if an enemy is stunned, you could also instantly grapple them. Also, for ammo, and you can decide how many rounds are within a clip for your weapons and stuff. Probably your players will have a rifle, you know, three round mag. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong. And for the pistol, a 6 round mag. Yes, I think that's it. Also, you have the option to also have upgrades still be a thing. Instead, maybe increase the hits it deals, or increase the mag size, or maybe even it gives you a focus to use while using it, even. Also, crafting. It uses an action to craft any item. Players have upgrades. It's your decision whether you want to do that still. You could add different mechanics as well that are involved with upgrades. Like, maybe enemies... maybe your player... You know what? Honestly, the upgrades you can get, by collecting pills. Collecting pills can still be a mechanic you can use, and instead, it's maybe how the players level up, meaning they get increased hits, or they have more focus, or they craft faster, or getting more crafting things they could craft, or that sort of thing. What the abilities you get within the game. You could still add that, I believe, and having pills be a mechanic of collecting, scavenging for things. Also, to mention, with the range of weapons, I'm not going to do that, but you can certainly do that. Of course, a shotgun, does less hit damage if on longer range. Duh. And, you could have it where a player cannot use a ranged weapon within 5 feet. Your decision. As well. Also, a enemy can grapple you. If an enemy makes the action to grapple you, you suffer 1 hit of damage on their turn while they are grappling you. To escape a grapple, you have to use an equal or 1 number difference of focus in order to escape. So, example, if grappled, dealing 1 hit to you, on your turn you use 4 focus and they use 3 focus, meaning you break out of that grapple. That's how you break out of one and how grapples work. You do take damage if being grappled. Also, dashing. You use an action to dash. Your original movement is, 30 feet, but if you dash as an action, you double that and you get plus 3 focus to use. But whenever you're dashing, you cannot attack. Because it uses an action to attack. Also, if you ever played Uncharted, if you fall on an enemy, that instantly, you instantly kill that enemy from your melee attack. Honestly, I love that mechanic. I think it's really good. Also, it's very rare, but I really, it's good. I like that you're able to do that. Also, health kits, use an action to use. And heals a number of hits. By your own decision, depending how generous you want to be with that. Now, I do have a little document with some of the rules. Okay, just to be perfectly clear, I made this within a short amount of time, and obviously I didn't put all the proper rules in it. There's a lot of things I probably would have to add if I were to actually want to make this a system, but this is more as a starting ground and a simplification of how you would play The Last of Us 2 within a tabletop RPG. And I think it's pretty good for what it is. And I do have a doc, and you can use. Again, things could be heavily changed. I don't have everything explained out, like how other crafting stuff works and how you, how leveling up would work. You probably do the same thing it does, with the pills and, maybe the manuals. And, all the other smaller stuff as well, like the puzzles and things. That's something. But as for this, I think it works. And you are free to change it however you like, to use it. And tell me what I could fix, and what to add. And yeah, that was episode 1 of How to Play The Last of Us as a Tabletop RPG. Yeah, I appreciate it. So thanks.
Think that's all of them? Let's now find out.